Welcome to episode 13 of the Andy Beshear podcast. Today, we've got a great show for you. We've got Griffin Johnson, a YouTuber and a social media influencer that has millions upon millions of fans. While I think I know what he does for a living, he's going to explain it to someone like my dad, who I hope will tune in and watch this episode. You can download the Andy Beshear podcast on all major platforms, but also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast. And trust me, this episode you want to see on YouTube because we're showing off our patriotism, and you should see the outfits in the Johns segment. We also have Will Beshear. He's going to teach us some additional Gen Z lingo, and he's actually going to talk about his Beta Club experience, something that's important to him and how he sees the world and how he wants us to be better people. So on this episode, excited to talk to Griffin Johnson, also a proud dad listening to his son. Let's get to it. This is the Andy Beshear podcast, and we've got a treat for you. Joining us today is a social media influencer, entrepreneur, and investor, Griffin Johnson. Griffin has built an empire across numerous social media platforms. On one of those platforms, he has twice the number of followers that my state has people. So he's put a lot of work into it. Griffin, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, I got to be a little TV on the side there, but really glad to be here. And thanks for having me. And hopefully we can bring some good light to two different generations about what we're doing here.
Well, really excited to have you on because there's such a big role that influencers currently play in our culture and in our country. And while I think I know a little bit about it, I'm thinking about my parents and some others out there who might not fully understand what an influencer is and does. So educate us a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really good question. People ask me that actually a lot, especially in the horse racing world. And, there's a lot of different answers, right? An influencer can be anything from someone like me that does horse racing now, but, day to day with their girlfriend, whether it's what they're eating, where they're traveling, what they're wearing. There's that sort of influencer. And then you have your niche, which is someone that's specifically about one thing, whether it's food, whether it's clothes, whether it's horses. There's different levels and different stages, I guess, of being an influencer. But I would just honestly say it's anyone that makes content consistently online and provides value to an audience across the board, whether it's 10,000 people, 10 million people. It doesn't really matter, I don't think.
We know you're closer to 10 million people, which is incredible. How did you get into this? Did you sit down and make a plan, or did you kind of stumble into the first several videos?
Yeah, so I had a friend in college, actually. So I grew up in a super small town in the Midwest called Paris, Illinois, 8,000 people, right? So you don't get to see a whole lot, especially on, I guess, what the new trends are or what the new platforms are or anything like that. So luckily I had a good friend and he said, hey, you can post online and make money. And at the time I was flat broke. I was working in a steel factory in the summer, and whatever money I could generate, during school is what I had. So he told me all I have to do is post myself. And at the time I was in nursing school. So I would just, post my day, whether it was struggling on an exam, whether it was going, to I guess my first video that really took off was me talking about wiping butts during my clinicals. And yeah, so that's really where it started, and just the just the thought of being able to make some extra income.
I think that there is a desire for authenticity out there in the world. In a way, we had scripted television entertainment, and then we had so-called reality entertainment, which didn't turn out to be unscripted. And whether it's in politics or in life and in choices, it seems like people are really looking for real experiences, and that's one of the things you provide.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest value with social media. And I say it a lot because with traditional entertainment, which I still think is valuable and important and it has its purpose, but social media, anyone with an iPhone, right, can, or any phone actually, can just press record at any point and upload it for free. And that's the beauty of it. There's no production, there's no money that has to go into it. And there's no, I don't have a boss or anyone to answer to. I mean, I can post and say whatever I want at any time. And there is a beauty to that, I think, right? Of having your own freedom and your own right to say and do whatever you want at any time. So it really does allow for authenticity because you don't have to answer, like you said, with the reality TV, you get too many hands in the pie, and eventually it's right back to being scripted. So that is the beauty.
So, Griffin, this is John Rabinowitz here, and it's great to see you again. I enjoyed our conversation pre-Derby, and congratulations on your success with Sandman. But when did you know that this was something you wanted to do full time? Are you doing? You mentioned nursing earlier. Do you have any other jobs but being an influencer right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, look, right? I was a kid in college that just got really lucky, and TikTok was early. I kind of got on and before it was really adopted by the masses. So it was a lot easier to scale and be a persona there. So, anyone that's looking, I guess, to do it full time, I always say start part time. You can go to work and work 8 hours, come home and film a video or two in 20, 30 minutes. So, anyone before you take the leap of faith and you want to do it full
That's
time,
good advice.
Great advice.
yeah, please do not jump in after one viral video because it's a lot harder than that.
This is how he's gone from this to entrepreneur to
Yes.
horse racing,
Yes.
giving good advice. Now, you say 20 or 30 minutes, but I've got an idea of how hard you work at this. Understanding each platform, because you're also on Instagram and Facebook and others, what the ideal time is for a video on each one, how to prepare the right type of content. So talk a little bit about, you've got the creativity, which you can see in all of it, but the actual work that goes into it too.
Yeah, I fight this a lot. Being an influencer, there's a little bit of a disconnect, I guess, between what it really takes and getting that, I guess, respect and people to really understand what goes into being not only an influencer but over a long time, right? Because as an influencer, you're always fighting time. It's about longevity. It's about pivoting and creating, a very deep career, right? So that's why I kind of done the venture capital, and now I'm doing the horses, and I started off in LA. I'm always pivoting and finding new ways. And, with that, each platform does have its own, I guess, pillars of what works, what time frame, as far as like a 15-second video versus a minute video. And most importantly, it's about keeping up with the trends and keeping it fresh. So I would say, something like TikTok, if you're doing it daily, it probably takes me realistically like, an hour a day to go on, figure out what I'm going to do. But that's years of learning, right? I'm 6 years into this. I've never missed a day of posting in 6 years between, each platform. I don't post on every platform every day, but, and yeah, figuring out Facebook is different than Instagram, and Instagram's different than TikTok, and TikTok's a lot different than YouTube. So kind of figuring out those buckets, it's different for everyone, and you have to figure it out as you go. But in order to actually be a successful influencer, I would say over a span of 6 years, every platform takes at least an hour a day.
So we've got these different cast rules we talk about on the podcast to make it real. One's to be authentic, and you are absolutely that. Another is to talk about your why. So if you're called an influencer, what's the influence you ultimately want to have in the long term on society?
Yeah, for me personally, I just want to give people real experiences into, my bread and butter is finding traditional markets or traditional, sports or whatever it may be, from, venture capital to horse racing, and giving people behind the scenes and adding some humility to whatever it is in the sport. For me, it's been a lot about behind the scenes of backstretch workers and showing the day to day of what it takes to maintain these horses and Also giving them the experience of what it's like as, a small time guy. I'm just a kid, part owner of Sandman that went on this crazy journey. And that kind of gets into, once again, the authenticity and, kind of giving people that real look. And my why is, I think it stems from being from a small town, but it's showing people that, with the power of social media, and if you use it as the tool that it is correctly, the opportunities it can give you. And I've always just tried to kind of carry that with me. Is I'm just a small town kid, and I'm figuring it out as I go, trying to make it. And I hope that, I guess, at the end of the day, people can see some kid that came from nowhere and made it out and did something, hopefully really extraordinary one day.
You're listening to the Andy Beshear podcast. Our guest is Griffin Johnson. He's been telling us about building out this social media empire and what drives him, his why. Now, Griffin, we all got connected because you had a Derby horse. Now,
that's right.
It's amazing.
Not many people in the world ever enter a horse into the Kentucky Derby, a part of a West Point Thoroughbred ownership group for Sandman. Tell us what that experience was like.
I mean, the Derby is the Derby for a reason. I mean, it's the glitz, it's the glamour, and it's, one of the biggest horse races in the world. So to be able to step out and do it at the highest level, it was just surreal. I mean, I grew up pretty close to Louisville. I've obviously heard about it my whole life. I've seen it online. And to really get down, I think the biggest moment where I realized, like, wow, this is really special. You're doing the walkover, right? So all the horses are lined up. You're walking on the track. You're coming over, and you look up, and
it
it's
was
just
muddy.
Yes.
Oh, it was muddy. It was probably 5 to 6 inches of slop on the sides of the track where we were walking. So, I'm stomping through the mud. I'm like trekking through it. I brought my girlfriend with me, Macy, and she had no shoes.
Yep.
So we're slopping through, and you just see a wave of 150,000 people up in the stand. You see all the lights and the flashlights for as long as you can see. And that was just a super, surreal moment for me. I made a video saying it was like the first time in my life, out of all my social media things that I've done, I actually felt like I had accomplished something special that people could respect and, I guess, kind of look up to. So that moment for me was probably the best of my life.
Now, Griffin, I do need to know this. Is this your first horse?
This is my first horse.
And it went to the Derby.
The bar is set so high.
You've been ruined, by the way.
So how many more are you buying next year?
Well, you see, I think I'm going to be chasing this for a while. I don't think I'm going to ever give up on getting more horses and trying to do it again.
That's great.
All right. So something not everybody knows about me is all my first jobs were in horses. My brother's a veterinarian, and so I was a farmhand. I have mucked more stalls than I can count. And I've seen one of your videos. You give him a bath and even do the sweat scraper, which I'm impressed. But here's a question. Being an owner, have you ever mucked a stall?
So it's funny. Growing up, I've mucked plenty of stalls.
There you go.
Now I have not done any stalls. I will say I would gladly do any of these thoroughbred stalls because they are very clean. They are not like the stalls that I remember from growing up.
Yeah. What about the grooming, the curry comb, the hard brush, the soft brush?
Yeah, you know it all. I'm still in the works. I told Mark Cassie, who trains Sandman, he is just a horseman. I mean, from day one, he has been amazing to me. And I'm actually going to go to his facility and go through about a week. I think he's in Ocala. I'm going to go up there and see if I can learn a thing or two about actually getting into the nitty gritty.
You got to learn to pick the hooves too. And when you learn that and how to put the bit in the horse's mouth, then you got it.
Yeah, I got a little work to do there, but we're going to get there. I'm confident by, the next horse that I have, I can really get into the stalls with him.
So you have taken this fame and I guess the compensation that comes along with being an influencer, and you've moved into business. Tell us about that transition.
Yeah, this is something that I think is getting more popular, and it's going to continue. I think a lot over the next 5 years. But with this new wave of, TikTok and how electric it's been, just in our culture, it allows you to, take an audience, whether it's, for me, it was, I never really had a niche. So sometimes whenever you're battling that and you're just doing the trends and kind of like creating a lifestyle, it can be hard to pick what you're going to do. I scaled myself through venture capital. And the reason I did that is I was like, hey, we're influencing the music culture, we're influencing the CPG, which is all the products you can get at the store, the gas station, anything you can touch, for a whole new generation, which is Gen Z. So I was like, man, how could I scale this? How could I be impactful and kind of do things that create longevity for my career that stem outside of me as a personality? So the beautiful thing about socials is you're your own marketer. So I kind of use that as leverage to get into startup companies. I think probably my most popular would be Poppy, which is kind of like a better for you soda. Got in super early and just aided them with some marketing and some social media posts and kind of get them off lifted up off the ground. So mine's a little bit different, but yeah, you can really leverage yourself and create a really substantial business just off of your own platform and harnessing an audience of your own.
What is your favorite video or post you've ever made?
Oh my goodness. This is hard. I think out of my all time, it would probably be my first video because that really changed my life.
Mm.
My first video was I was holding my friend, the one I was telling you about. He had a little puppy, and it was just a trend at the time. You flip the light switch, and you're by yourself. You flip it off, and then when you flip it back on, I had a puppy in my arms.
Okay.
Sounds pretty silly out of
No.
everything but that was my first post, and definitely if I wouldn't have, taken a leap of faith, I wouldn't even be sitting here. So that would probably be my most impactful in my entire life.
So if there is one post you could go back in time and not have
Okay.
posted, what would that one be?
Well, you see, I started when I just turned 19. So, and I've posted my entire life. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I have a lot of posts I wish I could take back. I would say,
But I think
I
they've
would
worked out.
yeah, I would say this is just I don't know if anyone watching will know, but I had a girlfriend online in 2020, and we had to break up, and I made a song about it. If I could go back and
Oh,
take
wow.
and not post the
You did
song,
that before,
I would.
right?
No one wants to hear me sing, even if I've written a song.
What about most viewed?
My most viewed?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I would have to look, but I think I had a group that I lived with in LA during COVID, which everyone was at home, so maybe the numbers are a little skewed, but it's just the craziest video of all of us dancing like idiots in a room together. That is somehow out of everything I've posted, I think the most viral video ever.
Wow.
But I think the world needed that at that time.
Amen.
So as we wrap up, you share so much of your life with folks online. But if you have one secret superpower that people don't know about, what do you think it is?
I think what's allowed me, I guess, to find success throughout, the last 6 years is just keeping myself in a position where I can relate with the masses. And I guess what I mean by that is you could say maybe humble. I don't know. I haven't always been the most humble, but I try to be. But really, it's just keeping my finger on the pulse and making sure that I spend time with the people that I'm trying to speak to. And what I mean by that is, at the horse races, I'll go out into the crowd and just take
Yeah.
pictures. I'll talk to people. I'll ask them, "What's your experience like? Is this your first race?" Whatever it may be. I always try to make sure I really talk to and take care of all the people showing up. And I've kind of carried that throughout, and I think that's been probably my biggest superpower as a creator. Is just as simple as it sounds, just keeping it real.
So how did your audience, which probably hadn't seen a lot of horse racing, respond to these posts on something that they hadn't been exposed to, maybe?
Yeah, it's been great. Whenever you start something new, you never know how it's going to translate. And I hadn't done any horses, so I was a little bit nervous, I guess, to see what their response would be. But it's been fantastic. It really stems down to, once again, just like you were saying, keeping it real with everyone and being authentic. And it's been an easy and seamless transition. It seems like the horse people too that were fans beforehand were happy to have some more behind the scenes and fresh content as well. So it's been great. It's been the most fun I've ever had in social media, I think.
That's great.
So my last question: if you're posting every single day, if you could take a week off, what would you do?
Oh gosh, a full week with not worrying about posting whatsoever, right?
Yes.
Oh gosh. I think I would. This is a bucket list for me. I think I'm going to Australia.
Oh
I've
wow.
always wanted. I've always wanted to go. I think the nature is unbelievable there. I'd probably go out in the ocean on a boat and just snorkel and fish every single day for an entire week.
Well, if you're fishing, John will come.
I will be there. I was just fishing in Alaska. It's the best.
Yeah, did you do okay?
We did. We crushed the halibut.
Oh, I've heard about that. See, never been.
John signs up for the ones where they catch the fish for you. They guarantee you a
Yeah,
certain
it's
amount.
weird. You just hit this button and it reels up itself. It's amazing.
Yeah, you just get on the boat, they bait the hook for you, and they just send it down, and you press the button.
You hit the button. Yep, that's it.
This is the Andy Beshear podcast. Our guest has been Griffin Johnson. Hey, this has been an amazing conversation. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me, and I hope that I got to teach everyone a little bit of something today.
Oh, I think you taught them a lot. My kids sometimes teach us Gen Z lingo, but
Oh, okay.
You've actually taught about reaching a Gen Z audience, and in such an interesting and thoughtful way. So very grateful you joined us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Andy Beshear podcast. Now it's time for our weekly segment where we talk about the issues of the week behind us as well as the issues of the week ahead with my two friends, John Rabinowitz and John McConnell, known as the Johns. Now, last week, we teased that this was going to be our 4th of July episode, and so they were going to bring the costumes. And gentlemen, you did not disappoint.
Well, listen, somebody didn't get the memo. I don't see our host here
Very true, Art.
taking part at all.
Well, I got a little bling, but remember, I'm the only one of us that appears on a ballot.
Fair point.
That's a fair point.
Now, listen, John, I hope people really appreciate the effort. That's strong.
I went after it, shorty shorts and all.
So to anyone listening, this is the time where you have to check out our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast because I think both outfits are fire, or at least one of them is skippity.
Listen, I actually had ordered 2 other shirts that didn't come in time, so this is a last-second Kroger grab.
Well, I'm afraid anybody who tunes in on YouTube and has to see me dressed like this maybe instantly regret it. I'm not sure.
What I can tell is you both love America.
Amen.
Let's start with the week behind and that's currently going on. Right now, as we're here, there are votes going on different parts of what Donald Trump calls the big beautiful bill, which I think is a big ugly bill. It's now clear that in Kentucky, our healthcare sector, especially rural healthcare, is going to get decimated. The new approximations are that 200,000 Kentuckians will lose their healthcare coverage. 20,000 healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, orderlies will lose their job, and 35 rural hospitals are at risk of closing. Concerning?
It's just scary. I mean, when you look at me being from rural Kentucky and what it's taken for our hospital to grow and the services it has now, thinking that steps back, it's going to take, another hour to an hour and a half for people to go get their care. And that's saying that they have the ability to find the coverages when they lose it.
When you're looking at Murray, where you live, and you're looking at major employers, where does your rural hospital fall?
By far, it's got the largest budget in town. That's even larger than our university in town. I mean, that's the weight it carries in our community. And to see that struggle, I mean, it's going to affect everyone.
And if you eliminated a large part of those jobs with the biggest budget in town. Talk about the impact on the local economy.
Well, I mean, that's going to affect it from the top to the bottom. It's going to be your housing market. It's going to be groceries. I mean, people who go shop in restaurants, other local companies. I mean, all the way down to the people who live in those houses hire someone to come mow their yards. Now, all of a sudden, that's even going to change. So it's going to go from the top to the bottom.
And I'll tell you,
everybody.
There's things in this bill I like. I know that doesn't shock either one of you. Things I don't like, but I will tell you what's fascinating to me now is to watch the process, watching how the president's trying to whip the votes, watching how we've kind of moved from Friday to today. I guess right now, as we speak, there's a vote-a-rama going on with all these amendments. And it'll be interesting to see. It's interesting to see how they're tailoring some amendments for the votes. Like I think in Alaska and Hawaii, I wish also Kentucky, so we could avoid these certain things. But at the end of the day, it still has to go back to the House.
Yeah.
And will it pass? I don't know.
There are already concerns there. Remember, there were House members that said, wait, I didn't know these provisions were in the bill. They admitted that they had not read this bill. I guess what upsets me the most, because I ran for my current job to be the best governor of Kentucky I could be and not to be the best Democratic governor of Kentucky, is folks are supporting their party or voting with their party instead of representing their people. I'd like to think that you could be a Democrat or a Republican, and if someone tells you, hey, this bill is going to fire 20,000 healthcare workers in your state, you'd say, I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, and look at North Carolina Senator, who Republican.
He's doing it.
And he's saying that actually the middle is becoming few and far between in the Senate.
He said something real interesting. He said bipartisanship is getting more and more rare. I think sometimes we misuse that word. I think nonpartisanship is getting rare. There used to be certain issues, foreign policy and others, that weren't approached in a partisan lens.
Yeah.
And the concern is once that happens with healthcare, and in this instance, though, also a huge blow to the economy. Healthcare is one of the largest growing sectors in the economy of virtually every state, and this is going to remove hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue into one of those largest growing sectors, and that's just going to really hurt rural economies, urban economies. It's going to hurt the United States economy.
Do you see any way that they hit the July 4th deadline of the president in getting this bill through?
I hope not. But what I've seen is people more concerned about what the president thinks of them than their voters think of them. And people are not going to, as Mitch McConnell said, get over this. If you're one of 20,000 Kentucky healthcare workers that lose your job, you ain't getting over it. If you're one of 35 rural hospitals that can't keep their doors open, those communities ain't getting over it. If you are one of 200,000 people that no longer have coverage, you ain't getting over it. And if you are someone who now has to take a parent or a grandparent into your home and you are missing work, and previously that was covered by Medicaid, you're not getting over that either.
No, and it just for me in the health insurance world and seeing people have to talk about those claims they've got. I mean, if that hospital closes or that rural hospital shutters, it affects everyone in the entire community, regardless of the health care they have, because the doctor's not there.
Well, and your son covered by Medicaid.
Correct.
So what this bill does is double at least the things you have to do to prove every year you should be on Medicaid. What happens if you don't check the right box and he loses coverage for 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's out of pocket at that point until you get it corrected and you can get it reinstated. It's going to decimate health care.
And while your small business has done well with a special needs child, that would be incredibly hard to absorb.
Yes. Yes, the per hour therapy it's expensive. It is.
And listen, we had a lot of news, a lot of which came out on Friday, but one piece of news that we heard about had to do with your alma mater. And I wanted to talk to you about it. I didn't know if you knew, I guess the Virginia president, James Ryan, told the board of overseers that he was resigning rather than face the inquiry or investigation of the DOJ over whether or not they had done enough to shut down their DEI practices?
So I went to law school at the University of Virginia, got lucky on a test, and they let me in. And Ryan was a law professor at that time. I think he had torts. He was known as a good professor. And so years later becomes the president of the University of Virginia. I think this is bad news for any university when the federal government is trying to bring so much pressure, and then apparently as one of the requirements that the federal government was giving to come to some type of resolution said you have to fire your president. We haven't seen or heard of that in any other example. It looks like the people at the DOJ had also gone to Virginia, and so this was maybe a little too personal and individual to them. But the moment the federal government doesn't just step in, and while I disagree with what they're doing, doesn't just step in and say you need to do something differently, but for us to come to a resolution, you have to fire your president is concerning.
And I guess he just didn't want to risk the hundreds of millions of dollars in funding that they could lose.
He didn't have a governor supporting him, and so those appointees weren't going to necessarily support him. But he is a practical guy, he's a smart guy, loves that university, and so I think he saw a situation where he wasn't going to have the backing he would need to fight, and then he thought about the ramifications of the university and ultimately put it first.
When you think about leadership in universities, I mean, I'm assuming this will have a ripple effect across a lot of universities who, when they are in searches for presidents, and all of a sudden this is out there now.
Well, I think the University of Kentucky dealt with this earlier this year, didn't they?
They did, but overall, this is getting tough. It's getting tough to find a president and keep a president, which we've seen. It seems like there's a lot more politics around what's supposed to be the president of a university of higher learning. So my hope is that while academia needs some changes here and there, we can depoliticize it so it can get back to the job of educating our children.
Yeah. Also, last Friday, the Supreme Court gave the Trump administration a big win in holding that the lower courts could no longer issue nationwide injunctions to stop his executive orders. That one in particular had to do with birthright citizenship. The court really didn't rule on whether or not the 14th Amendment issue, was constitutional or unconstitutional. But it did focus on no more is it going to allow these judges to uphold executive orders.
Well, this is a ruling that goes to nationwide injunctions, which we've seen going back to before President Obama, but certainly became a lot more popular with Republican attorneys general banding together and suing President Obama and his administration. And then Democratic attorney generals, including myself, did that during the first Trump administration. But the idea is if you go to court and you get a policy or an executive order declared unconstitutional, it can't be unconstitutional in some states, but not in others. But what this ruling ultimately said was we're going to apply it to the parties, the people that are in front of us. And that could create, at least for those sometimes years where it takes for some of these court cases to get through, the Constitution allows one thing in one state and other things in another state, even though it's one United States Constitution.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what this will do now is force more direct actions by AGs and states, and likely more class actions moving forward, where one person represents a class of people in order to get something done. So it really is a huge change. And I do think it affects both parties. It doesn't matter which president's in, but it's going to affect both.
The ironic thing about this is most Republican AGs aren't going to challenge something that President Trump does. So when you think about canceling of grants or freezing of funds, does this mean states with Democratic AGs or a Democratic governor willing to sue are going to go to court, are going to get an injunction, and those dollars are going to flow to Democratic-led states, but not to Republican-led states because they won't file the lawsuit? I think that's a real possibility.
Yeah, something I heard, and I don't know whether this is true or not on the way here, was that this really didn't start being used by the lower courts until like the mid 60s, and that it's not something that's been around forever. And so, and it's been like widely used in the last 10 or 15 years.
That's older than John McConnell, so I think it's been around forever.
It's been around for a few minutes.
Well, speaking of John McConnell in this outfit, John, clearly the 4th of July means a lot to you.
You
4th
love
of
America.
July means a lot. I love America. I think about the 4th of July. I think about my whole family. I think about fireworks and being outside and being down at the lake, and it just brings back memories of all those family members around you celebrating and enjoying it. So, yeah, it's a special holiday for me.
Fan or not a fan of the hot dog eating contest?
I mean, I like hot dogs. So, now, would I be in a contest? Probably not. Not my best choice.
Listen, I thought about bringing us a ton of hot dogs in here and seeing if you could beat Joey Chestnut, but I was not sure.
No,
It's like watching a train wreck.
And he was pretty sure I wouldn't wear the shirt.
But what does it mean to you, Andy?
Yeah.
The 4th of July is about celebrating what makes our country so special, and that's that we're free. It was when we declared, or when we continued to declare our freedom from, at that time, England. But we went on from then to form such a great country that while I know we talk about the challenges we face right now, we're just truly blessed to be here. And so I think about on the 4th of July that I'm blessed to be an American. I think about the fact that I'm blessed to have the family around me. And I think about the fact that I'm blessed to have a job that in this crazy, chaotic world, I get to get up and do something about it and try to defend the America that I love.
But clearly not as patriotic as John and I in our outfits.
I mean,
This is the Andy Beshear podcast. Remember, you can check out our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast and see both outfits of John and John. And now is the segment on the Andy Beshear Podcast called In My Kentucky Accent. Today, I'm thinking about the 4th of July, and I'm thinking about patriotism. I'm thinking about how, as a child, every day I would say that Pledge of Allegiance. And when you say that Pledge of Allegiance, that you pledge to a flag and to a country and never to one individual person. And when you say that pledge, you pledge for a country that is indivisible. So when I think about certain folks that are out there trying to create an us versus a them, trying to turn one American against another, that is not patriotic. The most patriotic thing we can do is to try to work within our system of checks and balances to address the challenges that are out there and to come back together as a country. To remember that the most important things like a good job, the ability to see a doctor, the roads and bridges we drive, whether we feel safe in our communities, and the education that our kids are getting, they aren't partisan. They shouldn't be partisan. It's just other people that try to make them partisan. Remember that the United States is about all of us, every single one. And true patriotism is about trying to lift up every single American without leaving anybody out. So on this 4th of July, let's think about how we can make this a better country, how we can talk with our neighbors, how we can lower the temperature, and ultimately all move forward together. Welcome back to the Andy Beshear Podcast. And now the return of a segment I know you've all missed, Gen Z Lingo with Will Beshear. Will, welcome back to the podcast.
It's good to be here. I'm excited to teach you all some new lingo today.
All right.
All right, so our word today is goated.
Goated.
So, are you familiar with the phrase goat as greatest of all time?
Yes.
Yeah, so that argument that's out there about Michael Jordan versus LeBron, and obviously it's Michael Jordan.
Sure, okay. Yeah, that's fine. But this is an adjective word. So you would describe something as goated. So, John, this outfit today is goated.
the outfit is goated.
Don't encourage him,
It's
Will.
goated. Why not? He
Yes.
looks amazing.
Yes.
Now he's going to wear that out often.
I would love
Exactly.
to see you in public.
It'll go to the front of the rotation in the closet now.
Right.
So, Will, what's something that you've seen or done and you thought it was so amazing you said, that's goated?
Oh man, that is a tough one. Whenever I saw John and John walk in, I was like, I mean, this is a perfect representation of the word. I mean,
We
these
went all
outfits
in.
yeah, and especially for America too. Great reason, great outfit designs, great choices.
So on the 4th of July, America is goated.
America is goated all the time, but especially on the 4th of July.
He may be better at this job than I am.
I'm coming for you.
So,
I'm coming for you.
so give me an example where is it music? Is the best new song goated? When was the last time one of your friends used it in a sentence?
I can't remember the last time a friend of mine said it, but it can really be used for anything. I mean, this food is goated, like you said. That this song is goated. This athlete is goated.
Can you
so good.
overuse goated?
There is no overuse of goated. It has infinite uses.
So you just need to get out there and say it as much as you can if you like something.
So our
Yeah.
athletic ability is goated. I mean,
Ooh.
obviously. But I was thinking, so if you're up to bat, you hit a home run, did you just goat that pitcher?
That is not how that works.
Oh, wait a second.
But
wait.
are you goated?
Yes, I am goated, but I didn't
Goat
goat
the
the
pitcher.
other
Well, I
person.
figure like you just goated the pitcher.
So could you hit the home run, flip the bat, and yell goated?
Probably not. That would probably be really cringy.
Think
Have you tried it?
Cringy.
I have not, but I also don't hit a lot of home runs.
like us using any Gen Z lingo,
Cringy.
cringy.
100%.
Yes,
It's cringy.
but if I try to
Facts.
say
No cap.
Yeah, fire.
skippity,
Now we're just saying words.
Exactly.
your turn, Dad.
Just how many
That's
can
all
we
we got.
say? Will, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, one thing that you do that I know that you really enjoy through school is Beta Club. Tell me about it.
So my beta journey started in 7th grade when I went to my first convention, but I ran for state vice president here last February. I was able to win that office.
He won.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity to run at national office this past week in Orlando, and I didn't win, but it was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was just so special.
Well, so proud of you for winning in Kentucky. As you know, when I was growing up, I ran for everything and lost everything. So you're already way ahead of your dad. Tell the listeners who don't know what Beta Club is about it.
So Beta Club is a youth leadership organization. Its motto is "Let us lead by serving others." And so the whole purpose of it is to get out in the community, make it a better place. And I think students, especially in the high school, really need that extra push to go, like, get service hours, go to a food bank, just do things like that. And Beta Club is a big catalyst, and they help out the community so much all over the country.
So Beta Club sounds like it does great work. It also sounds nonpartisan.
Yes, it is not a political organization whatsoever. The big thing at Beta Convention this past week that I had noticed was everybody was just there to help. Just anybody in their community. It doesn't matter, like Democrat, Republican, if they were different in any way. And that is what makes Beta Club so beautiful to me, is because it is not us against them. It is us not against anybody. We're just
Just
trying to
us.
help. It's just us.
Tell me what you think the world can and should learn from Beta Club.
It doesn't have to be Democrats versus Republicans. It just has to be us against what are the obstacles in our way to making the world a better place. And that's what government's all about, is to help out the people of the country. And I think that
Preach, Will.
we lose sight of that a lot, and that's really what our country's all about at its core.
So instead of fighting each other, we'd fight, say, hunger.
That's a pretty good enemy to fight.
What do you hope to get out of Beta Club as you move forward?
I just want to help as many people as I possibly can during office. I'm currently the vice president-elect of Kentucky, but on July 3rd, I get inducted, I guess you could say. And so just doing as many service projects as I can, helping as many people, and just impacting the world, not as, Will Beshear as your son, which I love to be your son, but representing Beta Club and representing something bigger than myself is a thing that I will forever cherish.
So my last question is, if you were going to become Kentucky vice president, do you outrank me?
I guess technically I do, but,
Family meetings are going to be interesting.
yes, definitely interesting.
Will, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap On another episode of the Andy Beshear podcast, episode 13 was goated. Please let your friends know about the podcast. We're all getting hit by the news over and over, and if this is a place where they can process everything going on, we would love them to join our audience. Everybody out there, take care. We'll see you next week. Remember, you can download us on all major platforms or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast. Your downloads and your subscriptions are what keep us going and keeps this conversation going. So make sure you're a part of it, and let's do this together.
God bless America and the Andy Beshear Podcast. Happy 4th.
That's the best, right?
Nice.
Oh, my God.